Last time I was hoping to do a small initial impressions review of GT Pro Plus. Because of kind of some challenges with the ride, I decided this is not a representative ride. Since then, I was able to ride additional 90 miles on a wheel, and now I feel like this qualifies as first impressions ride. Okay, so first of all, why did I decide to get this model? It's probably going to be a niche model, given its weight, given its capabilities, etc. So number one, I do have ET Max, which is a fantastic wheel. I use it as my main wheel, but it is lacking range. So if you run aggressively, you expect to get something like 30-mile range, given the terrain, given my weight, etc. If I ride it with mild aggressiveness, I go into beeps around 45 miles. And this is less than I would like to have as a maximum range for my wheel. So I was looking for a powerful wheel with long range. Number two, I had a little bit of an argument on the Facebook when specs of this wheel were announced, and it was quickly obvious that this is the heaviest wheel ever made. I was curious how rideable it's going to be. So my experience living in California, liking a lot of mountain rides, is navigating wheel going down the windy roads. And with heavy wheels, there are special challenges that need to be accommodated. So I was curious how it's going to play out. Now, few people weighed in. Some people said that it all comes down to skill. Well, this is vacuously true. Always a skilled rider will do better than a non-skilled rider. And in some sense, you can produce a wheel with only one pedal. And for a very skilled rider, this is not going to be a huge limitation. They'll be able to ride at full distance. They'll be able to perform all of the necessary stops using one leg. So to me, this is not representative. For me, what is interesting, can you get used to this wheel enough so that for a moderately skilled rider, this is not going to be an impediment. And this is what I wanted to test myself. Now, as a background, I have experience with heavy wheels. I clocked close to 1,000 miles on my Master Pro. Master Pro is a different wheel though. It's 118 pounds versus GT Pro Plus, that's 123. But also Master is a very tall wheel with 22-inch wheels, and it behaves very differently, and both its pitfalls and its strength may be slightly different. I also own a few 100-plus wheels, including ET Max, including EX30, so I'm not stranger to heavy wheels in general, but obviously there has never been a wheel that was quite as heavy. Hence, whatever you get used to may not necessarily correlate to how it's going to feel to ride GT Pro Plus. In one sentence, GT Pro Plus is heavy. Not only that, but its weight is pretty close to the ground. And in general, that sounds fantastic because you want your weight close to the ground for stability, but this also makes it hard to change directions because you do need to put more weight to make it go one way or another. And I'll touch more on that. I had to do quite a few adjustments to the wheel to get it a little bit more comfortable to ride. Now, if you're a 120-pound rider who is riding 100-plus wheels, probably everything I'm saying will sound as absolutely normal experience. Well, I'm a 250-pound rider who has been riding those wheels, but obviously I have a lot of weight, so some of the technique was different, and now perhaps I need to pick up those tips that lighter riders always have to know. Okay, so what are the changes that I have to do to my typical riding? So first of all, I have to change tilt angle to 1 degree plus, tilting slightly up, and the reason why I found it critical going down the slopes, I felt like I had really poor control over braking. And this extra 1 degree gave me a much better sense of control and confidence that if necessary I can slow down. Now you can always emergency brake, but typically you do not need to emergency brake, you just need to slow down somewhat. And this is what I had a lot of problems with until I recalibrated the wheel and tilted it just a little bit up. I also had to angle my pedals. Now I generally like slight angle on my pedals, but for most wheels I can also ride them with flat pedals. Not with this one. I really felt like I need this finer control that angled pedals give you. My stance also changed to a wider one. I don't typically hug the wheel, but generally I stand pretty flat on the pedals. In this case, I had to move my feet closer to the edges of the pedals. And this is because I needed leverage to swing this wheel left and right. It's actually that heavy. In fact, most of the time I needed to bend my knees and really lean only for heavy turns. Not in this case. In this case, I find quite often that I need to shift my whole body weight to make wheel move one way or another. Again, quite possibly this is absolutely normal experience for lighter riders, but being a heavy rider as I am, this is somewhat unusual to me and took a little bit to get used to. While carving during ride is always a good idea, but I found like I carve much more with this wheel. It gives me more sense of control, especially as I'm going down the steep hill. I want to make sure that I'm able to change directions as needed, and continuous carving gives you this confidence. Another suggestion, I never bothered to install the manufacturer pads on the wheel, but I did try to ride it with Clark Titans. And generally I love Titans. They give me just enough control, they're very easy to mount, dismount, etc. But in this case I felt like they're not giving me enough control. So I had to swap for Clark Bio pads, and I'll try later my setup with power knobs. I would suggest power knobs or bio pads as kind of a must for this kind of wheel. You do need this control, you do need this confidence, because even for mild riding, not doing anything extreme, you still need this pretty extreme input on the wheel to make it go in the right direction. So I found significantly better riding experience with bio pads than I did with Titans, and I think it should be consistent regardless of your riding style. I'm still playing with suspension on the wheel. Surprisingly, I didn't find it very comfortable at first, and honestly until right now. GT Pro had very good suspension when I tested it at the store. Commander Pro, which I owned before, is probably the best cruising wheel suspension that I've tried. But GT Pro Plus, so far I wasn't able to tune it to the point where I feel very good about it. Possibly it's just more tuning that needs to happen, but also it's a heavier wheel, and if it literally shares the same suspension with GT Pro, who knows, maybe the wheel is a little bit too heavy for this suspension. But I'll check. I may still buy alien rides to see if the suspension itself is behaving correctly. So far I'm still experimenting with it. Okay, so I got this wheel because I wanted the longer mileage wheel. So how good is the mileage? In short, I do not know yet. The rides I did, I don't think they're representative because I'm still getting used to wheel. My speed is less than what I typically do, but I can share my first impressions. So definitely it has longer range than ET Max. That would be shocking if it did not. But I do not know how it compares to EX30. So my initial impression, and again, I will probably do a full range test, I'll check how much I get, but my impression that it's not head and shoulders above EX30. I'm hoping that it's at least 20% more, but I really need to check. So far it wasn't clear that it was consuming super small amounts of battery. Now, one great thing about this wheel is the power. Wheel is definitely very, very powerful. I haven't done any speed rides, so it's hard for me to tell how high I can push it. Plus, I'm not really daredevil that goes to 70 miles an hour. That said, so far I have not been able to break 50 PWM by much. And this is something, because with EX30 I definitely could get in the high 70s fairly easily. So there's a lot of power reserve. It gives me a great sense of confidence, especially for a heavy rider. I view this extra power as a safety margin. I do not need it to go 80 miles an hour, but I do need it to go in my 40s and do not feel uncomfortable about this wheel being pushed to its limits. Alright, so final question is aesthetics of the wheel. This wheel has been described as the ugliest wheel ever made. I have to say, definitely it's not going to win any awards, but actually I like its utilitarian nature. I found it very easy to mount pads in the right position. Even spoiler, I think, is an interesting place to mount a utility bag, so I may give it a try. So overall, the surface for mounting things is very convenient, and wheel itself is kind of convenient to ride seated, because it's so long that I can comfortably sit on it. So let's see, it definitely doesn't bother me aesthetically anymore. Let's see if overall I actually will appreciate the design as time goes on. Now, I wish they would include more high-tech features, like smart BMS, etc., but as you know, they're always like a bit behind, maybe in the next generation. So finally coming back to the Facebook discussion. So Marty weighed in on the Facebook saying that this is the wheel he is waiting for. I'm curious what he thinks of the wheel when he finally gets to ride it. I definitely feel it's going to be heavy for him. That said, if you ride on relatively flat terrain, wide roads, etc., you're not looking to make extreme turns, maybe this will actually be quite comfortable. So I'm curious how he feels when he rides it. Maribel also commented about her experience with GT Pro, which she really appreciated. I think, and again, she's a great rider, much better than myself, so I'm sure she could ride anything. That really comes down to skill, but I'm also pretty sure she would find the weight somewhat uncomfortable and limiting, now especially given the weight differential between us. So I'm curious how other people will feel actually riding it. So I will take it on a long ride to do 50 miles over the mountains. I'll share the experience after I have it. My impression that with some extra tuning and learning, I can get comfortable with this wheel. I definitely feel that once I get used to it, it will be more comfortable than Master Pro. If range also is longer than what you get from wheels that are coming up with 4,000 watt-hour batteries, that may be an interesting option for people like myself who appreciate long rides. But let's see. Thanks for watching. I'll share if I have additional thoughts later.